Have you ever imagined what New Mexico looked like before Route 66? Before the cities, before the noise of the modern world? Let's travel back to the late 1800s, a time of dusty streets, silent horizons, and lives built from courage and hope. You won't believe these real photographs. Masonic Hall, Roswell, 1900. At the corner of 3rd and Main stands the proud Masonic Hall, its ornate facade sheltering the Roswell bookstore and post office below. Men in crisp shirts pose beneath the striped awning, symbols of a town moving from dust and stagecoaches toward commerce and letters. Children on Washington Avenue, Las Vegas, 1900. A quiet afternoon beneath leafy shade as 4 children pose proudly with their burro. Their straw hats and simple clothes whisper of innocence and frontier resilience, captured in a moment of peace before a century of change. Oldest house in the United States, Santa Fe, 1900. Before nations had names, this house already breathed. Its walls, molded by earth and memory, have stood through conquest, silence, and centuries of sun. In Santa Fe, time does not pass, it merely gathers dust upon wisdom. Post Office, Elida, 1900. Men in suits and hats gather outside the small wooden post office, reading letters freshly arrived from distant towns. Children linger near their father's boots, curious about the world beyond the plains. In this frozen moment, the mail was more than news. It was connection, hope, and belonging on the edge of the frontier. Dry goods and clothing store, Albuquerque, 1900. The Lesser and Lewinson Dry Goods and Clothing Store stands proud, its wide windows filled with fine garments and a curious array of dolls. 4 men, merchants and workers alike, pose by the entrance, their reflections caught between prosperity and the promise of a growing city. Schoolhouse at the Pueblo of San Rafael, 1900. At the edge of the desert, a humble school stood like a promise of dawn. 2 women and a man faced the wind of San Rafael, where adobe walls met the silence of eternity. Even the creek beneath whispered of beginnings. Burro train at Fort Marcy in Santa Fe, 1900. Along the dusty road of Santa Fe, a slow caravan of burros carried the lifeblood of the desert, firewood and patience. Their hooves echoed between adobe walls, where telegraph wires hummed above, and time itself seemed to travel at their pace. Interior of a dormitory at a Navajo school, Tohatchi, 1900. Inside these whitewashed walls, silence learned to breathe. 16 narrow beds lined the Navajo dormitory, each one a story paused by history. Wooden beams held the ceiling, and dreams drifted beneath them, caught between 2 worlds that never fully met. Indian Pueblo of Laguna, San Jose de Laguna, 1900. Across the barren hills of Laguna, adobe walls rose like echoes of the earth itself. Homes shaped by centuries of sun and wind stood silent beneath a sky without end. A village carved not from stone, but from memory and faith. Missionaries on the Navajo Indian Reservation, Tohatchi, 1900. The desert wind carried hymns in a language few understood. Reverend Brink and his wife stood before the Navajo plains, where belief met endurance. Behind the brick walls, prayers rose with dust, both vanishing softly into the endless New Mexico light. Laguna Indian men threshing wheat at Pequate, 1900. Under the open sky of Pequate, the harvest rose like dust and light intertwined. 3 men worked in rhythm with eternity, their pitchforks tracing arcs of gold against the desert air, as the mesa watched, ancient and unchanging. Group of Laguna Indians at Pequate, 1900. Under the soft shade of a blanket, 2 women guarded the laughter of children. The earth was their floor, the sky their roof, and love their only shelter. In Pequate, life rested gently, humble, enduring, beautifully human. Agua Fria Street, Santa Fe, 1800. In Agua Fria, homes of earth and sky stood quiet beneath the desert wind. Adobe walls held the warmth of generations, their shadows long upon the sand. Here, silence was not absence, it was the language of belonging. Musicians at a wedding at San Jose, 1898. At a wedding in San Jose, the sun joined the music. Strings and laughter filled the air, weaving joy through the dust. Three men stood in rhythm with life itself, the violin, the guitar, and the heartbeat of New Mexico. Fiesta de St. Stephen, Acoma Pueblo, 1896. In Acoma's narrow streets, drums echoed against adobe walls. The Fiesta of St. Stephen gathered hearts and dust alike. Ladders reached skyward, banners waved, and the people danced, as if the desert itself had joined the celebration of faith and endurance. Family outside a log cabin in New Mexico, 1895. Outside their humble log cabin, a New Mexican family stood against time itself. Faces weathered by wind yet softened by love, they posed beneath a corrugated roof, unaware that a century later, their quiet strength would still be remembered.
Today, at this very moment, history is alive before your eyes. These are not just photographs, they are fragments of real lives. Don't just watch, join the journey through all 50 states. Subscribe now and travel with us. The Vermejo School, New Maxwell City, 1895. At Vermejo School, children stood beneath a boundless sky, their future built from adobe and courage. A lone teacher smiled beside them, guarding dreams larger than the desert. Here, education was not a building, but a promise carved into the horizon. The first football team at the University of New Mexico, 1894. In 1894, beneath the high desert sun, New Mexico's first football team gathered for a photograph. Their uniforms were borrowed, their field unmarked, yet their eyes burned with purpose. Proof that even in the frontier, dreams ran faster than fear. Mining town, Silver City, 1893. Houses scatter across the rugged hillside, linked by a narrow iron bridge spanning a rocky gorge. The young mining town rises from the desert dust, its homes carved into the slope under a pale sky. A place of labor, resilience, and fleeting fortune at the edge of the frontier. San Francisco Street, Santa Fe, 1890. Along San Francisco Street, art and commerce danced beneath the desert sun. Jake Gold's Curiosity Shop stood as a bridge between worlds, native, Mexican, and American, where stories changed hands like coins, and the spirit of Santa Fe began to take shape. Bathhouse, Jemez Springs, 1890. In the valley of Jemez, steam rose where silence once lived. The hot springs shimmered like breath upon the earth, healing both body and soul. Here, time slowed, not to stop, but to let the heart remember. Entrance to Indian Building, Albuquerque, 1890. At the entrance of the Indian Building, stories met commerce. Women in shawls crossed beneath arches built from ambition and clay. Here, Albuquerque learned to balance its soul, trading art, language, and identity beneath the echo of iron wheels and desert wind. New Mexico Post Hospital, Fort Bayard, 1890. At Fort Bayard, healing met hardship. The hospital stood quiet beneath the vast New Mexico sky, its verandas filled with soldiers who'd fought not just wars, but fever and solitude. Here, courage learned a gentler name, recovery. Street scene, Lake Valley, 1890. In Lake Valley, wooden storefronts leaned against the wind. Once alive with miners and merchants, the town now whispered to the dust. Between the saloon doors and the setting sun, New Mexico remembered its restless dream of fortune and freedom. The Bloodgood family, Kingston, 1888. Standing proudly before their modern wooden home on the Hillsborough Road, the Bloodgood family embodies frontier progress at the close of the 19th century. Their neat attire and calm composure contrast the rugged pines behind them, a portrait of civilization rooted in wilderness. Street scene, White Oaks, 1886. Trader wagons stand hitched before wooden storefronts under the silent slopes of the Sacramento Mountains. Dust swirls around oxen and horses as merchants trade goods and stories. A fleeting pause in a town fueled by the restless energy of the mining frontier. Street view in the Pueblo of Acoma, 1886. In Acoma's ancient streets, ladders rose like prayers toward the sun. Families moved through walls of earth and memory, their footsteps echoing centuries of endurance. Here, faith was not spoken, it was built, one adobe brick at a time. Street scene, Albuquerque, 1886. Horse-drawn carriages line a dusty street where wooden storefronts display painted signs for restaurants, auction houses, and pawn shops. The air feels industrious yet calm, an emerging city balancing frontier grit with the first whispers of modern commerce. Cattle Roundup, Estancia Springs, 1886. Under the endless plains east of Albuquerque, cowboys on horseback oversee a sea of cattle stretching to the horizon. Their silhouettes blend with dust and sunlight, capturing the raw rhythm of ranch life in territorial New Mexico, where grit met boundless sky. Main Street, Kingston, 1885. Main Street bustles under a quiet mountain sky. A stagecoach waits beside the printing office, while townsfolk pause mid-errand, curious about the photographer's lens. Wooden storefronts, dust, and pine-covered hills frame a fleeting moment of frontier life, a small town alive with movement, trade, and the hum of the American West in its making. Family members in Socorro, New Mexico, 1885. Two young girls stand gracefully in a sunlit yard, tending to their pet antelopes before a shaded adobe home. Behind them, the porch gathers family members in quiet observation. The image captures a rare tenderness of frontier life, innocence, companionship, and the rhythm of days lived close to the land. The Montezuma Hotel after the fire, Las Vegas, 1885. Once a beacon of luxury in the New Mexico highlands, the Montezuma Hotel stood in ruins after the fire of August 8, 1885. Its charred towers and silent guests reflected both human ambition and the desert's unforgiving power. Military Parade in Santa Fe, 1885. Soldiers march proudly down Santa Fe's dusty Main Street as citizens line the wooden sidewalks to watch. Beneath the colonnades of adobe buildings, flags ripple in the high desert air, echoing a young territory's pride and the frontier's promise of order. Hot Springs Hotel, Las Vegas, 1885. Nestled among pine-covered hills, the Hot Springs Hotel stood as a haven of healing and luxury in 1885. Steam rose from mineral waters, carriages arrived from the train station, and travelers sought rest for weary bodies in the heart of the frontier. Funeral Procession, Santa Fe, 1885. A solemn procession winds through Santa Fe's narrow street, women in white carrying parasols beneath the desert sun. Banners sway gently, and the quiet reverence of the crowd reflects the town's deep spiritual roots and enduring sense of community. Palace Hotel, Santa Fe, 1885. The Grand Palace Hotel rises proudly in Victorian elegance, its ornate towers and wraparound veranda reflecting Santa Fe's growing prosperity. Once the finest lodging in the territory, it stood as a beacon of refinement amid the rugged beauty of the Southwest. San Francisco Street, No. 2, Santa Fe, 1885. A dusty stretch of San Francisco street shows adobe arcades and wooden storefronts under the bright desert sun. Horse-drawn wagons rest in the shade, and townsfolk stroll past Hurlo's Hotel, a snapshot of frontier life in transition. Dr. Tanner at his home, Mesilla Valley, 1885. Seated calmly on the veranda of his adobe home, Dr. Tanner enjoys the desert breeze beside a friend. The scene captures quiet frontier dignity, sunlight, shadow, and stillness blending with the spirit of New Mexico's open land. Principal Square in Santa Fe, 1885. Life gathers beneath leafy shade in Santa Fe's Central Plaza, where townsfolk rest near the old monument. The air feels timeless. Horses, adobe walls, and quiet conversation blending under the gentle summer light of a frontier city becoming history. Pueblo Laguna, New Mexico Territory, 1885. A lone photographer captures the ancient pueblo spread across the desert ridge, its adobe dwellings glowing under the vast New Mexico sun. The Rio San Jose winds below, a silent witness to centuries of resilience and artistry carved into earth and sky. The First Hotel in Lordsburg, 1885. The Ownby House, Lordsburg's first hotel, rises like a promise on the edge of the desert. Wagons and riders crowd the dusty street as townsfolk pose proudly on the staircase, marking what may be its grand opening. Behind the weathered boards of this frontier inn, travelers found rest, stories, and the pulse of a new town carving its place into the vast New Mexican landscape. 4th of July Parade, Socorro, 1883. A proud American flag waves above the plaza as townsfolk march beneath the desert sun. Horse-drawn wagons and band formations animate the dusty streets, while the mountains watch in silence, witnesses to a young New Mexico celebrating its growing identity. Albuquerque's first balloon ascension, 1882. On Independence Day, a crowd gathers along 2nd Street between Gold and Railroad Avenues to witness wonder itself, the city's first balloon ascension. Men, women, and children press close as the vast silk envelope swells against the sky, symbolizing progress, daring, and the restless spirit of a young Albuquerque just beginning to dream of flight. Mexican Circus, Santa Fe, 1880. Performers in pointed hats ride their horses before a curious crowd, blending showmanship with frontier simplicity. The scene captures an early taste of entertainment in the Southwest, where dust, laughter, and spectacle met beneath the shade of adobe arches. Old Store in Ruidoso, 1880. A humble wooden store stands beneath tall pines, offering meals, supplies, and beads to passing settlers. Its hand-painted sign sways in the mountain wind, a small beacon of commerce and community in the untamed heart of frontier New Mexico. H.A. Robinson General Merchandise, Kelly, 1880. A crowd of miners, families, and townsfolk gather before the general store, their faces weathered by the desert wind and the promise of silver. Horses stand tethered nearby, while the distant hills look on, silent witnesses to the brief prosperity of this frontier boomtown. Copper discovery, Elizabethtown, 1875. Miners and their pack mules gather in the shadow of the Sangre de Cristo Mountains, their faces hardened by dust and labor. Founded after a copper discovery, Elizabethtown bustled briefly, its promise of fortune soon fading into frontier legend. As the colors fade and time drifts away, we're left with echoes of courage, simplicity, and wonder. The people of New Mexico built beauty from dust and dreams. Their legacy still whispers through every mountain, every street, and every sunrise over this timeless land of stories and spirit.